In this video, you will learn how to graph the line for an equation written in slope-intercept form, also known as y equals mx plus b. You will be given an equation in this order, and you will be able to see that the constant number in this position is the y-intercept value, or the place where you're going to start graphing. Once you've plotted your y-intercept, you're then going to move using these directions of the slope. So the first thing is, can you identify those two numbers? So let's take a look at an equation here. The equation is y equals 2x plus 1. Can you identify the slope or the rate of change number? It's the coefficient of x, known as the m position. So for us, it's 2. Now technically, the slope is a ratio. So if it's not a fraction, we're going to make it a fraction by putting a 1 underneath it. And for us, the y-intercept of the equation in blue is the number positive 1. All right, let's try identifying that again from another equation. Y equals negative 2/3 x minus 8. Can you identify the slope, the rate of change number first? It's negative 2/3. Can you identify the y-intercept number? It's minus 8, or negative 8. So now that you know how to find the correct numbers that you need, let's talk about how you're going to use the slope to graph more points along the line. Now, some teachers use different phrases to describe a slope. Some use this phrase here, which has the Greek letter delta. And delta y, which is how this is pronounced, means the change in the y numbers. So delta means to change. So some teachers may describe it as delta y over delta x. Some teachers may call it a rise over a run. But all that means is how will the point move up or down, and then how will the point move left and right. So this is the order in which you'll complete the task today. First, identify the two important numbers from the equation, the rate of change and the initial value, or the y-intercept. Once you know those two numbers, you will plot the y-intercept first on your graph. Remember, the y-intercept always has a 0 in the x position because it is a number on the y-axis. You'll then use your slope or rate of change to find other points along that line. Some of you may choose just to graph, and some of you may want to make a table. Don't forget to connect your points, draw arrows on each end when you're done. So here's our first equation right here. Y equals 3/5 x plus 3. Our y-intercept is 3. So the first thing we're going to do is plot a point on the y-axis at positive 3. From there, we're going to graph another point. In order to do that, we need to move using the directions of the slope. The slope number is 3 over 5. So the change in the y-axis, the change along the y number line, is positive 3, also known as a rise. The change in the x-axis, delta x, is positive 5. So right there is where I'm going to put my second dot. Now I can follow those slope rules again if I'd like. Delta y is 3, delta x is 5. And I plot another point, right here. Now I can also reverse this slope if I'd like. 3/5 is the same as negative 3 over negative 5. So instead of going up 3 and right 5, up 3 and right 5, I could go down 3 and left 5. And when I do that, I would plot the point here. I could do it again, down 1, 2, 3, left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once I'm done, I can connect my points with a straight line with arrows on both ends. Now another thing that you can also do is you can write your y-intercept value as a point in a table like this, 0, 3. And then you can use your slope or the pattern of the y's, right? The slope is how the y's change, which is plus 3, and how the x's change, which is plus 5. And I can add 5 here and get some more points, and I can add 3 here and get some more points. And that's another way that you could graph your line. Let's take a look at a new question. All right, the y-intercept is positive 5, so on my graph, I'm going to go to the y-axis all the way up to positive 5. From there, I'm going to travel delta y, a rise of 1, and the slope is negative 2 on the x, negative 2 on the x. Again, rise 1, run negative 2. Delta y 1, delta x negative 2. And once you've graphed several points, you can connect them with a straight line and draw your arrow. Don't forget that you can plot your y-intercept point and then follow the pattern of the y, right? Delta y along the y column here, and the delta x, negative 2, negative 2, negative 2. That's another way you can plot some points. Let's do it again. This time our y-intercept is positive 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And our slope is negative 2/3. That means negative 2 on the y and positive 3 on the x. Negative 2 on the y, down 2, positive 3 on the x. So we have a slope of negative 2, then positive 3. And you can go as many times as you can fit. Draw your line and your arrows. If you'd like, you can use the pattern over here to create tables on a point. Points in a table. So we would minus 2, minus 2, minus 2, and plus 3, plus 3, plus 3. Those are other ways you could determine the points. All right, let's look at a few more. The y-intercept is negative 2. That's my first point. And my slope is 1 over negative 2. So delta y is positive 1, that's up 1, but x is negative 2, that's left 2. Up 1, left 2. The slope is positive 1, then a run of negative 2, a rise of 1, and a run of negative 2. So my y-intercept was negative 2, my slope number in the numerator was positive 1, my slope number in the denominator was negative 2, so I could fill in these values as well. And I could plot those points the same. Don't forget to draw a line and an arrow. All right, look carefully at this question. I know you see the y-intercept is positive 3, but the slope number, negative 1/3, is a little bit tricky here because the negative is on the side. So who gets it? Does the 1 get it, or does the 3 get it? The good news is, it doesn't matter. The bad news is, you can't give it to both. So you either give it to the numerator, negative 1, or you give it to the denominator, negative 3. But you can't leave it on the side, and you can't give it to both. So it doesn't matter if you give it to the numerator, which would be 1 down and 3 to the right, or whether you give it to the numerator, which is, the denominator, which is 1 up and 3 to the left, because they're both on the same exact line. They're both on the same exact line. So it doesn't matter where the negative sign goes, but you can only pick one number to give it to. Don't forget to draw your line and your arrows. Now sometimes the slope is not a fraction, like this one here. And when it's not, you have to put that invisible 1 underneath. So I'm going to draw a point at the y-intercept, which is 1, and then I'm going to count. Delta y, 2 on the y, delta x, 1 on the x. So up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, rise 2, run 1. You can also reverse it, down and left, down and left, down and left, to give you that nice long line. Okay, last one. -9 is my y-intercept. And my slope is -3. Remember, slope has to be a fraction. So put a 1 on if you don't, a 1 underneath it if you don't see it. So -3, 1, 2, 3, +1. That's off the grid. So I can't even draw a second point. And when that happens, you have to know that you're able to reverse both signs. So instead of a negative next to the 3, you can put the negative next to the 1. So now that's a rise of 3 and a run of -1. Rise 3, delta y is 3, and delta x is -1. Rise 3, -1. Rise 3, -1. Rise 3, -1, and all the way to the top. Whew, that's not so straight. All right, now you should be able to graph some equations on your own.